So, Robert, how did you come to be a whistleblower?
I fell right into it. It was an accident. We got this emergency training briefing saying that Al-Qaeda was going to attack us immediately and fly planes into East Coast and European targets.
Where were you working at the time?
I was a TSA Federal Air Marshal.
Okay, and so what did they tell you?
They said, get ready. We're sorry, but we're under attack. We could care less about your dress code and wearing a suit on a plane. And 2 days later, we got a message telling us that there's no more money and we're going to cancel any mission that would require us to stay in a hotel.
How did you get the message? How did that come to you?
On a cheap cell phone that they gave us, instead of to our $22 million state-of-the-art PDA smartphone. This is 2003, so smartphones were kind of new, so it was a really expensive project. So we had 2 devices.
So in the vernacular, did that piss you off?
No, I thought it was a test because it made no sense. 2 days ago, we were told that long-distance flights were under attack, and then 2 days later, we're going to be on puddle jumpers for an indefinite amount of time.
So did you just call the IG's office and say, hey, here's a problem, and they fix it?
I called my supervisor first, and he laughed, and he says, we're broke. And later on, the Inspector General would say that $1.5 million were given in senior executive bonuses to TSA, which caused them to lose all the money. Well, then I went to 3 offices of the Inspector General.
And how did that work?
Well, I went, first called the hotline. It routed me to an audit office in San Diego. It said, we can't do anything about this, and then sent me to a criminal investigative division up in Oakland. I spoke to a criminal investigator, and he said, these things happen, agencies run out of money, there's nothing you can do, you're young, you want a long career like mine, so keep your mouth shut.
Now, I'm guessing you didn't.
No, and I don't blame him because I don't think he knew the gravity of the matter, because we got this unprecedented emergency hijacking briefing. It never happened before. It was so serious that they wouldn't give it to us over a phone line, over an email. We had to go to a secure facility in order to get this terrorist briefing. So I don't think I believed he didn't even know how serious it was.
So then you wanted to involve the press. Tell everybody here how you contacted the press. What did you do? Did you just call on your own personal phone, or were you worried?
No, I actually had a motorcycle and rode through the desert to a truck stop to make sure nobody could follow me, because we were getting threatened all the time.
It was more than a truck stop. It was a truck stop in Vegas. Doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was bad. It was very hard to find payphones then.
Oh, now everyone, he's going to talk about a payphone, so some of you don't know what that is. All right. Okay, so you made a payphone call and got a hold of the press. What happened? Did somebody report it?
The reporter that I had found, that I discussed with, said, I can't believe this. I need to check with all my sources in TSA. This was an NBC News reporter. Eventually, he told me to call him back, so I rode back through the desert on my motorcycle, off paved roads, because we were constantly being threatened by the Patriot Act. So I thought everything was being monitored. Then he said I had confirmed this with other sources everywhere. He had a copy of the memo. He was in contact with Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Barbara Boxer, John Kerry, and several members of Congress, and said, we're going to break this story, and they're all going to hold a big video press conference after the story breaks.
And did TSA, upon seeing the story, apologize and say thank you for bringing it to our attention?
No, they denied it all day long.
These are called leading questions, by the way, yes.
I watched the monitors in my house and at work. It was all over. It was not just on MSNBC. It was on CNN. It was Fox News. It was on the front page of the Washington Post. So it was absolutely crazy, surreal. And the TSA said there's no such plan, and we have no idea what you're talking about. And before close of business that day, they had released a press statement to USA Today saying what it did was premature and a mistake, and the plan's not going to go into effect. And it never did.
So Congress decides to investigate, but what happened to you? Did you keep your job or lose your job?
I remained anonymous until NBC News called me back to go on NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw and discuss the air marshals being forced to pre-board in front of handicapped and families with children in suits and ties, military haircuts, didn't matter, Southwest Airlines on a Sunday morning from Vegas to Miami. We were boarding before all the passengers, regardless of the type of aircraft or where we were going to sit.
You get fired for releasing sensitive information. Since we're here about POGO, let's get to POGO. How does POGO play a role, and why was it so important in the way this developed for you?
So I had always known that you just keep your mouth shut, the government, you don't speak out, and pretty much knew I was going to be fired. They had retroactively designated my disclosure with an unclassified marking and fired me. And POGO called me up and said, "You're a whistleblower, and where's the Office of Special Counsel? And you can't retroactively, unclassified information is nothing." And I always said, "I have no idea what you're doing times 3. So it was clueless, and it wasn't for POGO the saying what you did is not even a no-brainer compared to what we have investigated in the Pentagon, top secret documents put out. It was POGO finally made me go, wow. Because I remember the attorney that I had hired told me, they said, you shot yourself in the head. I'll never forget that. And when POGO kind of explained everything to me, it felt like the sunlight was coming out. I may have done the right thing.
You told me in prep that POGO spoke to you in plain English. What did you mean by that?
They spelled it out. They found they were firing me for a TSA regulation when they told me you can only be, if you break the law, a statutory law passed by Congress and signed by the president, that's the only way they can get rid of a whistleblower. And they got the markups before the legislation on the whistleblower laws, showing that the Carter administration had tried to make it, if a whistleblower broke a rule or a regulation, it would cancel out your protections. And Congress removed it, and George H.W. Bush signed it into law if you break a law. And I didn't break a law.
You know, Woody Allen wrote a book, said he read a book on speed reading, and he said he read War and Peace, and it's about Russia, reading it in 20 minutes. I don't want to give you the that speed reading version, but could you tell us, you went through a legal odyssey, they went to the Ninth Circuit, and tell us very briefly how it ended up in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, we immediately, with the unclassified retroactive marking, we took it to appeals court. The appeals court said, unfortunately, the guru of unclassified information for TSA said that was a unclassified marking that you broke, and therefore we can't do anything about it because of a separation of powers. That gentleman, who is the smartest man in the world for the TSA for classified information and unclassified information, would blow the whistle to Congress 8 years later. Then we went to the administrative courts, where I lost over and over again. Finally, I went to the Merit Systems Protection Board in Washington, D.C., and the chairman and his vice chairman ruled against me. Once again, 9 years later, the chairman would write an opinion editorial, now in private practice, regretting what he did. Of course, it was 2 months after the Supreme Court issued its oral arguments that destroyed the government. So we're starting to see, when you stay in the fight and people like POGO help you, what happens is that the rats start jumping off the ship, and that's what slowly started happening. Senior executives were starting to blow the whistle in my favor. So I went to the United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, where we thought we were going to lose bad because it's such a conservative court with mostly Republicans, because the court was created during the Reagan administration. I won 3-0. Two George W. Bush appointees and Obama appointee, 3-0. The TSA appealed it en banc to all 10 judges on the U.S. Court of Appeal. That court is right across the street from the White House, by the way. It's a very exclusive court. They ruled again in my favor, 10-0. And one thing happened very rare is the TSA again appealed, and the Supreme Court affirmed the decision, which is very rare. Usually the Supreme Court only reverses cases 90-some%. Mine was an affirmation, 7-2.
All right. Everybody, to the winner in the Supreme Court, to the man who's kept the fight going for 10 years, and on behalf of POGO, his ally, we thank you for spending your time with us tonight.
Thank you for showing up. Thank you.